Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on how to do a lean canvas for businesses and nonprofit organizations. I'm Bob Hogan, the webinar coordinator today and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, and I'm going to be your host. Our presenter today is Bill Schloth. More on Bill in just a minute, but first some brief information about SCORE. SCORE is a national organization with over 11,000 volunteers across the country. We are part of the Small Business Administration of the federal government. Here locally in Fairfield County, we have over 130 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. And we offer 3 primary value-added services to small business owners. The first is free one-on-one counseling, which can be face-to-face, telephone, email, or Skype. And you can access that counseling by hitting the Request a Mentor link on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, or using the link that you see on the screen right now where it says Find a Mentor. The second service we offer are educational workshops and webinars like this, and we offer about 150 during the year, or roughly 3 a week. And lastly, we offer extensive resources on our website, including access to subject matter experts that can be at your disposal. Our next webinar will be on Tuesday, May the 7th, and the topic is Leading with a Growth Mindset with Joyce Schroeder presenting. And you can find more specifics again on our website at fairfieldcounty.score.org. We have set aside time for Q&A at the end of today's presentation. So if you have a question, please use the chat window at any time during the presentation, and it's located on the lower left-hand side of your screen. And in addition, I know Bill will also today be asking some questions, so if you could maybe respond to some of those using the chat feature, that would be great. We will end sharply today at 1 o'clock to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and a link to the recording, including the slide materials, will be available on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, within the next couple of days. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Bill Schloth has been investing in, managing, buying, and selling startups and emerging businesses for over 25 years. He spent 20 years as an investment banker working with a wide range of companies in various industries across the globe. He's been involved with numerous IPOs and enjoys the thrill of a deal. Bill is a CPA by profession and holds an MBA in marketing from New York University. It's my pleasure now to turn it over to Bill. Bill, all yours.
Thank you, Bob. Good afternoon to some, and the others that might be eating lunch. But I'm going to run you through why and how to use a lean business canvas. And the before is in red because once we go through this, you're going to see why it's a very helpful tool before you dig too deep into your business plan or nonprofit plan. We have included nonprofits in this, so if anybody's out there, we wanted to include that opportunity too. Let me begin by just telling you what we're going to do. It's always extremely important to know your audience. You're going to hear that theme throughout my presentation, but I'd like to dig into the audience here a little bit, just to understand who we're dealing with. I'll get to that first. Then we will, how do you score? And it's an interesting name. I'll leave you thinking about that for a moment. Introduction to the lean canvas. Instead of a business canvas, we bring it down to the lean canvas because we want to have nonprofits understand they can use this approach as well. The difference I'll explain between a lean canvas and a full business or nonprofit mission plan. What I'm going to ask you to do as I go through this is we're going to break down an actual lean business canvas so we can have you consider the different steps. Then we'll go to the Q&A. So let's get started by, well, there's something of me. That's the investment banker type look, but now I wear casual stuff. As Mike said, as Bob said, I spent 25 years helping small businesses, and wanted to move now into what drives the audience. Let me just get forward here. For nonprofits and for-profits, I'm asking this question, and I would really appreciate for those on the line if you can just give me an idea of where you are with the stage of the business. It would be helpful. So I break it down into three parts: validating an idea or a mission. That's type 1. Type 2 would be you're in business, but you're just under a year old. And type 3 is existing and you're over a year old. So I'd appreciate a quick just response, 1, 2, or 3, so we can see what type of audience we're dealing with. Thank you. Let me move forward here. How do I score? Is an important piece of this is the Lean Business Canvas you're going to find is meant to be a one-page visual business mission plan. And here's what's important. Obviously, SCORE, fabulous organization, the business plan, which is a path to profits, cash flow, and growth, is a full document. This Lean Canvas is going to lead directly into the preparation of that. I take a third step because, again, SCORE has these resources, and we point out stay educated and embrace innovation. What that means is using the SCORE approach and the training, cash flow, expense management, sales and marketing, risk management, employment management, and then I just say we cycle back around and do this over and over. So let's get started to dig into a little here. I don't like to start my presentation until I talk about, which is very exciting, and I think you all know it, 21st century digital technology has clearly leveled the playing field for us all, especially small, mid-sized companies. There's so much opportunity there. I just like to point it out because with this Lean Business Canvas that was produced many years ago, it even makes it more powerful because of the testing you can do. When I talk about the collaborative economy, it's just the new era of digital technology has brought in a whole new connection of commerce, capital, careers, and what I really like to see, and it's very helpful to businesses, you move in a cause, getting involved with a cause. And we have some other programs at SCORE that touch on these areas. I looked this morning and just wanted to point out so everybody understands their idea, no matter how large, small they think it is, you never know what could happen. I looked at my Start Engine, which is a crowdfunding organization, and you see things like Generation Genius. They have It's Like Netflix for the Classroom. There's another one popped up. These all been funded for over $400,000. Here's a good one, Lettuce Networks. Eat local, grow food, live sustainability. So I just want to share, let's make that use of the digital technology, which you can learn through a number of the SCORE workshops, in going after your business plan. Super powerful. So, reaching your goals. If only there was a way to test the viability of your idea or mission before going all in. There's the message. I'm a CPA. I use a lot of different numbers, don't like to spend money when I don't have to, and this is what I'm after for you. Before you dive all in, let's see mainly if there's some way we can develop at the heart of the reason of products and missions is one core reason for failure. But how can we find out what that failure might be without going into too much detail or spending a lot of money? The Lean Business or Mission Canvas is a one-page visual plan that really breaks your ideas and mission into 9 basic building blocks. It's driven off, it's adapted from Alex Oswalder's Business Model Canvas. Something build a good book to read, but even a more powerful book to read to get this understanding better would be How to Optimize the Lean Startup Methodology. I bet a number of you out there have heard about that fabulous book to use and read before diving into your business. So why start with the Lean Business Canvas? Of according to decadal formulas, you write a business plan, assemble a team, introduce a product, pitch to investors, start selling hard as you can, and then somewhere along the line you're clearly going to run into some type of setback, whether that's fatal or not. While a sound business mission plan is essential to success, a lean canvas makes the process less risky. There is that word, less risky. It favors experimentation over elaborate planning. Customer beneficiary, when you see that word in this presentation, I'm referring to nonprofits. Those are beneficiaries, that's their customers. Beneficiary feedback over intuition. Iterative design over traditional big design up front. So let me talk about the essence of the lean business canvas. What we really want to do, even though it's painful sometimes, focusing on what's riskiest for your business versus what's easiest. So an accountant like me likes to put together numbers, but that's not going to be me sitting in an office really testing if my idea or current business needs to be repivoted. I'm going to run you through, you can't dig, there's the small type, but we'll get into each of these segments with an actual example that I think you'd enjoy, and I want you to consider it as well. So here's the 9 points we are going to touch on. Your customer segment, this is in order, is item 1. That will be, we'll get through the small print later. The problem is number 2. Very important to the puzzle will be your revenue streams, number 3. The solution. Now, the small box does mean something. The bigger boxes are meant for deeper thought on what this is, and you'll understand why after we get through an example. Number 5, your unique value proposition. Number 6 is your channels, how you're going to get to your customers. Number 7, measurement of success of what you are trying to achieve, the key numbers. Both popped on, but number 8 is your cost structure. And number 9 is unfair advantage. And we're going to talk about that because that doesn't mean competitive advantage. So let me take a little further look at, if you split this model in half, you're going to see over on the left, there's a lot more you have control over. That's your product and service. You have more control over this left side than you do to the right side, because this we now get into the market, your customers. Just want to point that out. These slides will be available, obviously, but this is the Lean Business Canvas for a nonprofit. I included in there because there's a lot of opportunity. And you can see in the larger boxes the titles change just because of the difference in goals. One of the most important pieces of this, if I can stress, is you want to be testing, talking to as many customers, beneficiaries as you can prior to digging deep into your plan. So if we look at it during development, we're searching for a model that works. If the feedback, which can be across friends and family, anyone you run into, competitors, if the feedback is coming in different, we want to pivot it right out of the gate before getting too deep. Once a model is proven, the business or mission starts executing and building a formal organization. Each state of customer, beneficiary, again, is a nonprofit, is iterative. And really what that is saying, unfortunately, a startup will probably fail several times before finding the right approach. And that's okay. That's learning. But you want to learn early before you're sitting in an office by yourself developing a business plan. Now, what I want to do, and I'm going to instruct you to do something which I believe will be very helpful, I'm going to break down what we feel Amazon's, the small bookshop, looked like back in 1994 if it was doing a lean business canvas. I bet there was some version of it done, but I really would like you to follow along and consider with your own business this situation. So what we've provided is, I'll give it a moment to come up on the screen. If you can go to that URL, usbizstrong.org/score-lc.html. I recommend you go to that because there'll be a form there for you to start playing with while I go through an example. Great exercise. I give a number of presentations in person on this, so the webinar angle of it is a little bit different, but I'm looking for you to really give some thought while I walk through this example, and then we'd be very happy to send it to your current mentor or send it to one of us here, and we can start working with it. So I put that up there. If you have any more questions about that, you can send a feedback in the chat. But click on either a nonprofit or a for-profit model. I'll give you a moment to do that because I do force people when I'm in a regular in-person workshop to start filling out their form. It really makes for good interaction. On the webinar, it's a little bit different, but I'm encouraging you to move there. So the block 1, what we talked about, customer segments and early adopters. What you want to answer is, who can help you? Who can you help, Identify 3 to 4 users you are envisioning turning to your solution. We're looking for those customer identification, and this is the first one for a reason. Define the specific characteristics of your early adopters. Now, what we're trying to do here, there's a lot of users that could be out there, but we're really going to try to take another step deeper and see, is there some early adopters that we could find, get feedback from, not necessarily selling to right now, but that feedback word is critical to this whole process. So let's consider Amazon. Amazon, when they first came into this business, that's their audience, those who buy books. That's what their customer segment was. When they thought more about early adopters, avid book readers that are using the internet and willing to make purchases online, like to explore books. So I do hope some of you are already on that site and starting to just give a quick thought to your customer segments for your existing business, potential idea that you want to validate, or maybe repivoting an existing business towards a different segment of customers. That's block 1. Block 2, problem and the current alternatives. We are trying to answer there the crucial problems faced by your customers. And it's the need, and that's one of the critical paces to start. Capture their frustration. Always recommend 3. I don't know why I don't have it on the slide, but 3 problems. If you can't identify 3, that's presents a potential issue. But yours don't have to be, all 3 don't have to be unique. Some might be pains that just no one's reaching all the way through. So let's go to our favorite Amazon situation. What is the problem the market was currently running with? Oops, sorry, there's an actual first. Define one clear direct competitor. Not yelling at anybody, but I've been in the banking business for 25 years, small merging businesses, and I did really not enjoy when someone said there was no competitor. Don't think you have to have no competitor. Consider the other ways customers can address their problems. What products or services exist as alternatives to what you're offering? So don't get held up that if you see a competitor, and in fact, I go back to the internet, it's a fabulous way to go start seeing what other people are doing. In the past, we couldn't. We had to try to hunt down another business. So the internet will provide a key that you can even see how they're operating. But I stress that if you have no competitor, God bless, because we have Amazon who really hit it well. So let's move into the Amazon situation. What problem did they see out there? Bookstores are expensive. Bookstores have limited inventory. It's hard to find books and get recommendations at bookstores. Actually, pretty simple thinking in a way, because if you walked into libraries, they're powerful methods. It's all we had. That was the problem they saw. So adding to what they started to do, existing alternatives, if you see what happens, we end up with just the bookstores. And you could, if those famous things that used to come out, the catalogs ended up in our mailboxes, and that was really the only distribution methods they have. So here you are, problem, existing alternatives. Again, I hope you are trying to consider where you're heading with things. You'll see how this all comes together. Block 3. In order, as I said, what are we touching on? Block 1, customers. Block 2, their problems, still with customers. Block 3, still with customers. What would they be willing to pay for? Or in a nonprofit situation, what might a beneficiary provide money to the mission? So what monetary sources will fuel your idea, your company? How will you generate income? Present a pricing model for your products or services, and then highlight other sources of revenue. Remember, I told you it was a one-page business plan, a visual of your business plan. But you'll have quite a few notes to this that will be beneficiary, but we want to just get these main thoughts out. So when we look at Amazon, what were they thinking? How are they going to generate revenue? Book sales, pretty obvious one. Shipping was a huge one when they came out, something very unique, thought through. Shipping was a big profit center for Amazon. When I mentioned this, for the nonprofit, this mission achievement would be the funding sources of the Block 3 revenue stream. Block 4, the solution. What is your solution to the customer's problems? Present the defining elements of your product or service. Remember, that product or service, it doesn't necessarily have to be a fancy widget. It could be a service that you have evolved, became a subject matter expert, and move forward with that. What makes it the go-to answer for a problem? So you're actually trying now to say, okay, why are they coming to me? Let's move into our example of Amazon. What solutions did they want to provide? A website that sells all books available. Web-based customer reviews. I'll technically look at that as a simple sentence, but huge opportunity for them, because if you consider getting customer reviews in the older days, it was really maybe the desk that was sitting at the library. So can you get web-based reviews from a lot of people? Ship direct from distributors. Another very cost-effective method to increase your profits, but shipping direct from distributors didn't force a large inventory in a store that you had to go locally, and they could have all the books available. Efficient warehouse is a key part of that, and Amazon today is probably one of your best fulfillment sources in the world. And I also deviate here a bit to say if any of you are considering some type of distribution method, consider using their type of fulfillment centers, because this way you don't have to load up with a lot of overhead. And there is opportunity for that, I just wanted to mention. Block 5, the unique value proposition. We hear about this, and it's the elevator pitch. SCORE has some great workshops on that. And the high-level concept. So this is your elevator pitch. This message should explain what you do, how you do it different, and why you are worth buying in a sentence or two max. So let's move down to Amazon. What was their unique value proposition? What is your promise to customers? Sorry about that, it backed up. Still going. Zero in on the heart of your service or product and highlight what stands out about you. These slides will be available so you can answer these questions. Back on the what is your promise to customers? Important. The minute you make a promise, you need to be able to deliver, but great questions to answer before you dive in. When possible, it's good to make it relatable. What I mean by that is we are X for Y. So let's use an example. We are Airbnb for event space, or we are Starbucks of frozen yogurt. I told you about a start engine funding called Generation Genius that popped up this morning on my email. They raised $400,000, and their tagline is, it's like Netflix for the classroom. I didn't look deeper into it, but that's their tagline. Amazon, unique value proposition. Earth's largest bookstore. That's out there and as straightforward as you can be. And the high-level concept for them was the supermarket of bookstores online. These can be this simple. The fewer words that you can understand, the better to get this going. Block 6. Channels. What this refers to is how are you getting to your customers, or back to customers, or beneficiaries for a nonprofit. How will you interact with your customers? Inform them of your developments and services. Here across the board is other tools and resources that I know SCORE offers for these various things. Social media platforms, promotion events, or even word of mouth type approaches. How are you going to get to your customer? Let's switch to Amazon. Consider most effective ways. Amazon went direct to its customers through the website. Email. That was when email first was hot. It's a lot more difficult these days to get through on email, but there are so many more social platforms, techniques to now approach and get customer traction. Block 8, course structure. We're almost finished, but you can see Block 8 is now moving to an area that accountants sort of love to talk about. Others find it difficult because they have to develop some numbers. Again, SCORE has a number of resources that can assist with that. But cost structure. What will it cost to launch and maintain the business? Consider each stage of your startup or the next stage iterative. What that means is don't rush to get all excited. How long, what's going to happen a year from now? Take it in steps. Take 90 days. What are you going to need? Then move it. I like to do it in actually 90-day increments. Depending on if you're going to be looking for financing, you might have to extend that, but I want you to just consider on the shorter term. So, Amazon. Customer acquisition costs, development, and distribution costs. These are items I'm giving you examples. Sorry, it came up top again, but these are examples of costs that there's tools actually on SCORE's website to identify the fixed costs that may be involved. Cost structure for Amazon. Developers and website operations is definitely part of their scenario. Customer service staff and a center. Critical, because you're now dealing online, not in person with people. They've a big piece of their business. Logistics, fulfillment, start, and costs. They become one of the most effective, as I mentioned before, fulfillment features, to the point they're delivering by drone and number of unique ways. Obviously, the books were a cost of their sale. That's the cost structure that Amazon was dealing with. Let me go back to the basics one. For a nonprofit, this would be referred to as the budget. I want to just go back to the basic path of success. There's an equation for a business. We had block 3, which was your revenue. That obviously needs to be bigger than block 8, which was your costs. And ultimately, that will drive success. But I want to stress, and I like to do on the webinars, is don't get overly worried that you're not going to have revenue immediately. Things have to develop. But one of the messages you're getting here is the sooner you can figure out that certain moves might not generate the revenue you expected, the better, before you dump a lot of money into it. But I do like to say people have to worry, I might not have revenue right out of the gate. That is okay, depending if you just plan for that runway of need of capital. Now we're finishing up with the unfair advantage. A lot of people start jumping in and saying, oh, this is that competitive advantage where you beat other people. By this we mean, why can't your proposition be easily copied? It's more what I'm looking for, not necessarily what competitive advantage you have. This is, okay, why would it take someone a little longer to build what you built, come up with the idea that you have? As an unfair advantage in the space that we considered for Amazon, they have an unlimited selection of books with great prices and customer service. That's a powerful tool once adopted and complete for anybody to get into the market. So we've gone through the nonprofit it would be for buy-in support. We've now went through the 9 steps. I hope you see that we have, there's the format. I do hope, and I hope we end up getting some of them that you've been working off your own or just taking notes about what yours might look like. Because there's nothing better than, even after having just this one page filled out with some bullet points, sitting down with someone you know and saying, this is where I'm heading. What do you think? If anything, you organized yourself, and then you start gathering input. So I move back over to just mention, once you have that developed, I would strategically start picking pieces of the SCORE educational programs and tools to further your next step, which, what is your next step? We don't want you to, clearly don't speed through this. Try to answer it as concisely as possible. After this, you don't have a business, but you have assumptions that you think is what will be successful. Now, the next step before you launch will be to validate, test the assumptions. And again, that is what this lean canvas is leading towards. How do you validate and test? You seek input from everyone you can. Sometimes we recommend you seek input from some people that aren't your key potential clients, because then you get a taste of what some people are thinking. However, input, feedback, Don't end up in a room by yourself just thinking about what might work. I've been there plenty of times, so I'm not knocking it. Once you feel comfortable with your lean canvas, now it's time to really dive into that business plan that we all know about and start testing it as you go through the journey. So, I'm bringing back up on the screen the location to go, but we'll have it available to you. So since we gave you that earlier, I just wanted to have it on the end. At the end of this, you will be more confident about where you're heading. A lot of people don't know what they're doing, and they have some bullet points in a book. I really do believe, I've seen it, I've worked with it. It's a fabulous place to start before you, again, start digging too deep by yourself or start spending money that this will lead you towards a better expenditure. And in the end, I've had people thank me. In the end, you really want your pocketbook to thank you. So I'm going to, since I have some time, because people might be saying, oh, do you have to be a big company? Do you have to implement something like this? I am going to take a few minutes, which I think I can, Bob, and add some of the exhibits here, which will be available to you. But let's look at a few examples of actual canvases. So I particularly made them, I don't know what unique ideas out there. I look forward to hearing about them. But here's one that we did for a tomato food truck. And we'll have you print them out. I won't read everything here, but it's please do get in and take a look at this and use it as an example. Other examples we have done, including in here, this was a design software business. So if you people are thinking about application software, some apps, this was a bit of a flavor of that. We've included a music business. And the last one I think we included was Tree Savers, an environmental business. Great resource, again, to go to so that we can pull them down, start seeing what other people do. But you can see how simple these businesses are. You don't have to be the next Amazon. If you are, great. But I want you to realize this can be done for anything that you're thinking before you do too much writing. The last item I've included is an example of a nonprofit. And I guess where I really want to end up would be, this was one related to orphans and children. I've seen it work, and I recommend it's always both a personal and professional reward. When you're building something, it is really good to associate with some type of cause, something you believe in. These days, relating to a cause helps with your reputation, and I know we have some program related to cause-type marketing. So I'm, Bob, just about done with the presentation, and I'll turn it back to you. I'm looking at some of the questions. We have a couple.
Well, maybe I will just first of all, thanks, Bill, and we will use the remaining time for Q&A here, and we'll take as many as we can up to 1 o'clock. As I mentioned earlier, you can submit your questions in the chat feature there, and we'll give you a minute or two to do that. Feel free to ask questions either directly on the presentation or anything in the kind of business planning area. Bill certainly has the expertise to address those kinds of concerns. Or if you're in the nonprofit sector, have specific questions on nonprofit in a lean canvas, we welcome those as well. So we'll give people a minute or two to do that. And actually, we do have a first question, that Bill, that says, Do you also incorporate agile principles?
Oh, interesting. There's someone that has definitely read some books. At first, I don't, and there's an expanded model, but at first, I really don't get into. When you look at that type of stuff, it starts to drift more, in my opinion, into the manufacturing areas, and that's where the ultimate. I know who asked that question must have read the Lean Startup, and that's what they talk about. But I don't incorporate the Agile for this type of audience, maybe a much larger business that's working for.
Okay, great. Thanks. Other questions that people may have, please feel free to submit them in the chat feature there in the lower left.
As he's looking more at the questions, I just want to reemphasize this is one of those items that I think will be good for you to go fill out your form and submit it to either your current counselor, submit it right from the form, and we'll start going on it, taking a look at this, and you can start fine-tuning. I've had plenty of meetings, and I really know I could help. Some of the people show up without the piece of paper, and when they come back with their lean canvas, they're excited. They're excited to talk about it because they have something on paper. So, do we have?
Yeah, so we have a question here for you, Bill, that says, do you find that the complexity of a business plan helps to clarify and simplify for the lean canvas?
Great question. I was hoping it came out in the presentation, and it really was on that first slide. This is not at all a replacement for the business plan. And my first slide actually said, do a lean canvas before your killer business plan. That killer business plan is going to drive everything. So this starts to streamline it, but does not do away with the business plans. So it clearly, in the end, what we found, it helps you move into that business plan without the fear that a lot of people do because they see so many sections. So I do believe it really simplifies and clarifies items that lead to your business plan.
While we're waiting for some other questions, Bill, you've suggested that there's resources at SCORE, but are there other sources that people could talk to help them out with identifying their competition and things like that help kind of fill in the lean canvas?
That's a good question. I mentioned before, and I've done competitive analyses over the last, getting too old, but that the internet is just such a powerful tool. Now, I'm not sure how sophisticated different people are in the audience, but I throw out there is every business is identified by what's called an SIC code. They have to put something. And if you just Google it and then start looking through that, it will help you identify where you might fit. Once you find that, you do a Google of that SIC code, and you can start seeing your competition. But I see no problem at all working with, I've found, even calling up competition, see how they operate, get some answers. The walking in, I've had a couple of small businesses, people developing sweatsuits and putting in unique organic food. Walk into these stores and start asking. You never know. Some of the stores up by us over here in Fairfield County, you never know if you even might find a partner to join with you.
Great. Thank you. Any other, do you want to make any other comments, Bill? It looks like we don't have any more questions at the present time, but anything that you want to reinforce or go over maybe before we close things up?
I'm going to just, at the opening, I had mentioned the digital technology revolution, and I'm a big proponent of it. That's where I specialized in the Internet, interactive marketing. But boy, for small, emerging businesses these days, it's such a cost-effective tool, and I touched on each of those areas, and I encourage you to consider how it might help. What I touched on was clearly helping small businesses with commerce. Highly recommend if people are looking for funding, you explore the whole social concept of funding, which is very unique from my days. I guess I'll go back to the older days when you had an investment banker come in and he'd prepare a plan for you. Then he'd go out and look for investors, and the investors in general were the group's investors. Now, what social collaboration, crowdfunding you might have heard, but there's other new ones coming up, does, it really, in my opinion, aligns investors directly with your business plan. I've even seen people have their customers get involved, because what could be better than stimulating the business? The other item is careers. Careers are now using digital tech. You can further your careers, could be learning or it could be just networking. I highly recommend that. So, Bob, I drifted back more into the digital area because I want to encourage everyone to use that. We talked about the lean canvas here. Using the lean canvas, which they didn't have when it came out, with all the resources now at hand with digital tech, you're going to be able to get feedback. I use as an example, I'll see how much time we have. I've had one client that offered, ended up on a portal talking about his idea. He ended up getting someone in Asia as a very unique distribution partner for him, that his idea was great, but to build the distribution platform, it would have cost him quite a bit of money and time. This interaction, because of a site on the internet, ended up catapulting this gentleman to be able to distribute all over Europe, but use that as, Asia, but use that as another stepping stool to come back to the U.S. So,
yeah, no, great examples. We do have a couple more questions. Maybe we want to go back to the example of the nonprofit canvas, and the question is for-profit businesses are easily fit into the template for the product made is sold. However, nonprofits, the product is not a product to sell, but survival is dependent on fundraising. And how do we use the template for nonprofits? So maybe you could just talk a little bit about how to use the template there for nonprofits, and maybe particularly the fundraising aspect of it.
Great question. I almost set myself up in a way, because the Lean Business Canvas never talked about, it was called that. We've shifted this to Lean Canvas. It never really talked about nonprofits. It's a great question, but as I move, I'm going to try to flip back to this side. Well, I can probably, I'd love to get back. Is there any way quick to get back to the slide on what a nonprofit? If you go, whoever this question came from, it looks like Martha, to the nonprofit area of this site, you're going to see a different tool. I'm just backspacing, so give me a moment, because I love the fact that nonprofits are actually starting to realize they should be using this, because it can be helpful. I'll be with you in a minute. I'm almost there. Okay. So we'll take a little peek at this, because I do want to, if you are out speaking with someone that is a nonprofit, encourage them to do this. You see in the reds, you start looking at the same circles. They're actually in the same spots. So where you mentioned about, let's go over to that first one, beneficiaries versus customers. That's your people of the nonprofit. We move down to the third item, and there's what you're looking for. What's your mission? Is actually raising capital, and it's impact factor. So there, I didn't use the word revenue. That's your area that you're going to have the unique area for raising money. Buy-in and support is up in the number 9 column, because that's what you're going to need behind your mission. And over in 8, which is cost, is a little bit different. You only have a budget. You're not building a product. So I encourage you to flip through the slide, and again, I would love to look at something that someone's trying to use this for a nonprofit, because it's now built for it. I hope that helped the answer.
That's great. We have another one from Marina. Can you talk a little bit about proof of a concept?
I'm going to try to think about an example. Well, when we talk about, use the word proof of concept, which is great. I generally will use something similar, which would be your validation of your concept. And when I talk about that, I really am just looking for feedback, going out there and talking to customers. Now, frankly, some people say, and I've seen people waste a lot of money by developing something. A poor girl that I got to a little later, she went out and purchased 100 very cool bathing suits that she prepared, but she went out and purchased it before and had all that inventory and ended up trying to give it away. What I'm trying to say there is you don't have to have a product in your hand. You have a lean business canvas in your hand, I'm telling you, you're going to be able to, before you have to show someone a full product, you're going to start proving if your concept works. I'm not trying to yell at anybody, but you're going to have to pivot, and that's what I'm trying to encourage you. You're going to have to get that feedback because you need to fine-tune the business before you dive deep. So when I say proof of concept validation, and I tried to keep it stressing, anyone that could be a customer, family members tend to be a little more, they say everything sounds great, so just branch out further than that.
Okay, thanks. We still have time for a couple more questions. If people would like to, again, have any questions on any of the materials that Bill has covered, you can submit them in the bottom left-hand corner in the chat feature.
What we have is some businesses that 1, 2s, or 3s. We actually have them all the different types. The number 3s that are generally your further business, I see Mayo has a number 3, is an existing business that I bet he's thinking of seeing what he can add to. I'll call it spice up the business. Powerful tool to just start with this. What were you thinking through that could add to it? Starts identifying for you what competitors are out there. Using your own customers, I guess while I have the time, I'll mention this. When you are acquiring customers, very expensive these days. I encourage highly, and there's some stats, there's plenty of them, talk about the cost of acquiring customers versus retaining customers. It costs 5 times more to acquire customers. So once you have a customer, retain them through service, but also you want to explore more opportunity to lifetime value, they call it, out of that customer. And I just wanted to stress these as I start popping into my head, Bob, while we're going through these. The Mayo I see is a number 3. He may have a large list of, or she may have a large list of clients that they've touched. It's time to dig into those clients. Why go chase some more? But before you dig in, target via this type of approach what might really trigger a desire to purchase more from you or continue a relationship with you or restart a relationship with you.
Any comments for the Category 2s, Bill? Any comments for Category 2s, the people have just been in business for a year or so?
Okay, so we have, the year or so guys got their business going. Tough time, you make it a year. Very proud, but during that year you're going to have to pivot. It'd be interesting to identify if you have already, when I use the word pivot, if you have already changed some things. Great to think back right now of what you changed, because if you changed something, that meant there was a need that was you technically didn't see, or one of your items wasn't what you think it will do. So for those people in that 2 category, been going at it for a little bit, not just validating things, please take a look backwards a little bit as well as see what's coming, because I bet you did a few things different from that first day you were in the validation mode. So I guess I'm just mentioning, go back, see what you changed. This Lean Business Canvas should not stop. You should just, as my first slide said, keep revisiting. It's a continuous type process. Without ever replacing the business plan, it's just a great tool to start with.
Okay. One more on nonprofits. From Marina, what's the most frequent mistake in planning out a nonprofit organization?
Getting Marina's starting to push it now. But let me think for a moment. What's the most frequent mistake in planning out a nonprofit? Okay. I have worked with a number of nonprofits, and finding beneficiaries, we all have a purpose that we'd like to be involved with. And it's just the audience. The most frequent mistake is probably thinking the audience is as large as we believe it is. So again, this is where research, maybe through the internet, see what other organizations have your mission. I love, with a purpose, every business, I believe, should have a purpose to help the community. And one item I talk about in terms of nonprofits or even your career development is you should always look at communities. I use the word sometimes different than customers because communities could be communities of culture, communities of interest. These are target audiences. Communities of practice, that would be people, your peers. And I know there's two others, but I can't think of them right now. So that is another way to look at almost customers. What communities could you get involved with? And obviously the purpose. So to answer that a little shorter, it's make sure your mission that you're going after can attract, I hate to say it as well, someone asked, can attract some money for you to pursue it, but also it has a large enough audience. Sorry, one of the other big things is where community would be someone with some medical issues, huge importance. My father has Parkinson's, and it's just unfortunate, but I want to do everything we can in that area.
Okay, we have maybe one last one here. Does the use of a business model facilitate a faster path to market than creating a business plan?
Actually, I'm going to answer that with the business plan is a must, but when I say faster to market, it's faster to identify a potential obstacle or something that will freeze, and I'll consider that, yes, a faster way to get to market because it's identifying something that you don't want to find out later, which will hold up all. I also just want to add leveraging the ability to spread your idea out through the world to get some testing is you won't want to send your whole business plan. You want to tighten this up, and depending on what method you might want to do to, I use the word crowdfunding again because you're allowed to just really put it out there. I do stress, because I've been in the banking business, though, people worry that their idea is going to be copied. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but don't hold it, my recommendation, don't hold it too close to your chest. You want to get out there with your idea, and the further you get, the better. So I guess this plan allows you to have that unique proposition that you can at least get out, and someone, like I said, in Asia could pick it up and be a great strategic partner.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I think we're done for questions today, and I'd like to just remind everybody that there is going to be a recording of this webinar. It'll be up in a few days, and you'll be able to access not only the recording but also the presentation materials that Bill used. And it'll be on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. Our next webinar will be on Tuesday, May the 7th, and the topic is Leading with a Growth Mindset with Joyce Schroeder presenting. And again, you can click one of the links if you're looking for free individual counseling. Click the link on the screen, or you can visit our website and click Request a Mentor. We'd also urge you to please fill out your evaluations that will be sent at the end of the webinar. They help us tremendously in terms of future webinars and workshops. So on behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending our live webinar. And in closing, a big thank you to Bill Schloth for presenting today. And have a nice day, everyone.